last time we were together, Kath, we were talking about our direction for 2026 and how we were feeling refreshed and energized and ready for sort of the year ahead. And you used some interesting language. You spoke about the idea that our podcast often comes from this place of overflow rather than, feeling like we should and we have to and performance. And so we thought that is a great conversation. So I'm wondering if you'd like to unpack, what do you mean by coming from a place of overflow?
Thanks, Elle, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share this because this has been a topic that's been on my heart for
Mm,
years and kind of
right.
it's been a thread through all my coaching actually. And I think because it was such a thread through my own personal journey. So I was
Mm,
brought up in this culture of performance and felt often in my life obligated to say yes to things, obligated to show up and perform, or to do things in a way that felt like I was working hard and striving and pushing to get
yeah.
things done. And so, the word I'm going to use as performance in this sense is that it's, when you um needing to intentionally act a certain way or step out and
Hmm.
do something when it feels like you're working hard at it, you know. And I
Right.
mean, okay, I might give you an example. This might make sense. So if you ever heard um a musician
Hmm.
singing,
Hmm.
and we go to church and we often hear, people leading praise and worship,
Hmm.
and you can kind of tell when someone on the stage is not maybe obligated to be there, but they're a bit nervous, and they practicing, and it's important to them how they perform, and it feels like they're
Hmm.
performing. But then
Hmm.
you've also just heard a musician playing, and they're not performing at all. It's just like the music is overflowing from the inside of them.
Yeah.
It's just like
Okay.
it's flowing out of them.
Yeah.
And I recognized that in my life, I had spent so much of my life performing and trying and striving and pushing.
Right.
And that
Right.
languaging often came up in my coaching sessions when I was
Mm.
being coached.
Hmm.
And it took me a long while to try and figure out, okay, well, I still want to succeed in life. I still want to
Yes.
do things. Like I don't want to sort of sit on a couch and do nothing. But every time I like stepped out to do, it felt like a performance, and a striving and a
Right.
pushing. So for a long time, I had this question on the inside of me around, okay, if I'm not performing, but I'm still doing, what
Mm.
does that mean and what does that look like?
Right.
And it's finally sort of I'm starting to recognize and see the difference and what could life look like if your
Mm.
living comes from a place of like the things you choose to do are
Right.
things that delight you and inspire you. They come naturally. It's using your strengths actually, using your
Yes.
natural giftings and your strengths. So
Hmm.
a person who has musical talent and gifting
Hmm.
can stand up on stage and play as an overflow.
Hmm.
There's no ways in this lifetime of mine right now that I could ever do that because I just don't have that
Not
talent
with
and
that
gifting.
attitude, Kathryn.
But if I were to try and stand up and perform,
Mm.
like play music, it would be a
Hmm.
performance because I would need to really try hard because it's not something that just comes naturally to me.
Hmm.
Um, and I get that in life, we can't always be privileged to be just doing things that come naturally and easy.
Mm.
But I think there's a difference between uh, doing what we're doing from a place of it really is, it's flowing from the inside. So it's bringing your authentic self to the
Yeah.
space rather
Yeah.
than trying to be someone you're not to, fulfill an
Mm.
obligation
Right.
or to succeed in a certain way.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, there's so many different thoughts that are coming up as you're talking, and I'm trying to just capture and articulate one of them. Um, but that doesn't mean that showing up as our authentic self, that we don't need to work on or hone those skills, or like there's a difference there, isn't there? So as um our authentic self, if we've got some strengths, it doesn't mean we just sit in those strengths and that's enough. We can still be working hard on those strengths and still be
Absolutely.
growing in those. Like I'm just trying to grab a solid picture of what you were sharing because
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you
Yeah.
see where
So
I'm?
I absolutely see where you're going at. So let me take a big step back and maybe be a
Okay.
little bit clearer about what I've come up with as my own sort of um, points of difference between what it's
Okay.
like. So, because I've needed to be clear within myself around, Kath, am I performing now or is this overflow?
Right. Okay.
Okay, and I've come up
Mm-hmm.
with a few things that I think might make this topic a little bit clearer. And it's just been it's a thing that I'm challenged with that I want to do more of in my life. And you absolutely spot
Sure.
on right. You know, things that are maybe areas of natural talents and giftings,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely they need honing. Absolutely they can be improved. But I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the big difference is that when I'm coming from a place of overflow, I'm being who I am and
Right.
I'm bringing confidence and I have grace with myself too for when I mess up. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm maybe wanting to say if I'm wanting to be better at something, I'm practicing be better at who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I'm performing, I'm trying to act in a role and to be someone else. And it's almost like I'm trying to live a life that's someone else's life. It's not actually even me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of
I can
clarifies
see
that a
that. No,
bit more.
and I can feel it. And if you're watching our podcast recording and on YouTube, you'll have noticed the shift in Kath's state as you're explaining that. So I think you've articulated that well. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of them. And I've actually got
Hmm.
a visual. I've got a visual I've pulled up in front of me. So
Sure.
if you're watching the video, I'm going to be reading a bit just so that I explain this clearly.
Okay.
So in unpacking for myself these differences, when I'm performing,
Hmm.
I'm entertaining others with what they want.
Yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
people pleasing.
Hmm.
When I'm coming from a place of overflow, I'm gifting others with what's already inside of me to give.
Right. Yeah.
When I'm performing, I'm meeting I'm meeting the requests and requirements of others from a place of feeling obligated. Like
Hmm.
this is something I just have to do or must do or should do.
Hmm.
When I'm living from overflow, I can still meet the needs of others, but it's coming from a place of love, generosity, and choice. It might still
Right.
be difficult, it might still take work, it might still take effort, but there's something on the inside of me that goes, I'm choosing to do this. Not, oh,
Mm.
somebody else expects this from me. I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do this anyway because I feel obligated to. And for
Yes.
me, that's a big
Yeah.
distinction.
Well, let's go
Um,
back, right back just
yeah.
for 2 seconds to sort of
Sure.
have another example. So remember way back at the beginning when you said, "Hey, Al, would you like to start a podcast with me?" Right there, I had a
Yes,
choice.
yes,
Okay.
you did.
Did I know how to do a podcast? No. Did I feel equipped or particularly gifted in that area? Not at all. Um, there were a million and one reasons to say no that day
Sure.
because I'd never done it before, didn't know what I was doing, probably didn't think I'd be good enough or all, any of those things, the normal things that come up for
Yes.
us. But I had a choice and I said yes. And so thankfully, and there's been a
Yes.
gift for the last couple of
Amen.
years. Um, and we mentioned briefly last time we were together that our time together on the podcast comes from an overflow. And so
Yes.
there's this joy and it speaks life to us when we come together and we share our thoughts and our challenges and our lives in this space. However, had I said yes because I was obligated, I felt this need to perform or to be a certain person that wasn't me, and I
Or
wanted
maybe
to please you.
yeah, well,
I was
this is
like,
the
"Oh,
thing. So
Kath's
yeah,
amazing. I must please her. I'm going to say yes." My
yes.
energy, the way I would show up, would be incredibly different, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. So that's what I was going to say. If you said yes
Yeah.
because you were afraid to say no to me, or you didn't, you
Yeah.
felt like if you said no, you might let me down or you might disappoint me, you
Okay.
could have said yes, and that's saying yes out of obligation. And
Mm.
then to keep energized and to keep your joy in the space
Mm.
and to show up each week because you choose to, like eventually that would have burnt
Yeah,
out
it
months
wears
ago.
out.
Yeah, it absolutely
Agreed.
wears out. On in the same breath, listening to you, are there weeks where you and I feel, oh, we better meet, like there's an obligation to meet because we have made the decision to show up each
Mm-hmm.
week and
Mm-hmm.
to put a podcast out each week?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm honest, yeah, there have been weeks where I felt, oh my gosh, I have to, we should, we must. There's like
Mm.
obligation language coming up in that. But at the same time, my heart has always been stirred in a joyful way
Mm.
when I think about it, when I go and put it in the diary and I open my diary and I go, oh, Ellen and I are meeting today to record this
Mm.
podcast. There's a joy there.
Mm.
Even on those weeks where it's felt like it's an obligation and it's been difficult and we've had
Being
to
a bit
make space
dry or
and we've had
whatever.
to,
Mm.
there's
Mm.
still been a delight in meeting up with you to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, these big sort of comparisons that I'm painting here in broad brushstrokes,
Mm.
every topic has nuances and gray areas, and it's not always going
Yeah.
to be XYZ. But I think overarching, if every time I show up, I feel obligated to,
Mm.
it's gonna come out. You're gonna hear it in my voice, you're gonna sense it in the way I'm being, it's gonna make me feel exhausted and tired. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I just got to a point where I recognized that's the only way I knew how to live life.
Right.
Look, that's a bit dramatic. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy any of my life, but so much of what I
Mm.
was showing up to, and especially in the workspace, I was
Mm.
a GP, I did medicine, and so much of that, I just felt the longer I gave time and energy to medical practice, the more obligated I felt to stay there and be there and to continue to show up until I got to
Mm.
the point where I remember arriving at work, sitting in my car, and it took me like 15 minutes to half an hour to will myself to even get out the car and go indoors because I just was so not wanting to do what I needed to do that day.
Yeah, right.
So it was definitely like forced from a place of I'm obligated and I've created this life for myself and it's taken all this money and all this time and all these years and all this
Mm.
effort to get here. So this is just what it has to be like, and I just
Mm.
need to fake it.
Mm.
And so I think if you're listening to us today, and if you also similarly feel that so often in your world you feel like you've needed to show up and perform out of obligation,
Mm.
um, my hope for you today in listening is that you will find a joy in recognizing, but there's another way to be,
Right.
and there's a different perspective. It's like a different starting point, and it's sort of how do you position yourself in the morning each morning differently so that you
Mm.
realize I've got a choice here. Yes, I can
Yeah.
choose to perform my way through my day, or I can actually choose to live my day from overflow.
Mm.
And in the early days, when I started coaching and my coach, being coached, so being coached
Mm.
and being trained in coaching, I had so many days where I was on the floor in tears because this is what I was being taught. I was being taught, showing up with how to build self-esteem, how to build confidence. It's all about being honest, being real, not hiding, not avoiding.
Mm.
And when I realized, but gosh, I'd lived so much of my life that way, it felt so scary. It felt so vulnerable.
Mm.
I was so insecure. I thought, how on earth do I go and show people the real me? Because that's what it
Mm.
takes living from overflow. You're kind of being real with people. And so
Yeah.
again, if you're listening, it definitely wasn't a case of I flicked a switch and I went from, oh, now I'm performing to now I'm living from overflow. You spoke
Took
last time
time.
about the journey, about who we're
Mm.
becoming and that
Mm.
it is a journey. And
Mm.
so for me, what does this look like? It's looked like months, I suppose, in
Mm.
shifting from a place of living so steeped in performing because that was what I was so well practiced in. And the
Yeah.
reason I knew also that I was performing my way through life, like one of the other, if you're sitting listening and going, I'm not sure, am I performing, am I being me?
Mm.
Is that I used to say to people, well, I used to say to Greg, and he used to say to me back, we laughed at each other, that I was such a chameleon
Mm.
because I would be a certain way with certain people, and then in other people's company, I would be different. Like in company with all my medical friends, I would sort of laugh and joke and say how much I'm enjoying medicine, and I'm so glad I did medicine.
Mm,
And with people that were career driven, my language and my conversation would go, yes, I'm so career driven. And then I had other
mm,
friends who were stay-at-home moms, and I would go, oh, I just wish I could be a stay-at-home mom, and I would love to, and Greg's
mm,
like looking at me going, woman, like, what are you on about? You tell such different stories around different people.
mm,
And it's like you show
mm,
up being different around different people.
mm.
And that's not a great way to live. A, because you're
Mm.
not being honest with yourself,
No.
and B, it's
Yeah.
like, how can other people trust what you say because you're just saying what they want you to say, or you're saying what you think they want you to say.
Mm.
And so this performing, look, it's tied up in people pleasing, and we've got another whole show,
Yeah. I
spoke
think
about
there's
that as a
many
topic.
conversations coming from what you're bringing today because I've just got so many thoughts that keep coming up and I'm just like we don't have enough time, Al. Like that'll be another conversation. I guess
Yeah.
and it is tied up with people pleasing, but what about just as to touch on right now, if perhaps we do feel like we are obligated to be and show up and be and have to do something that we it's just not on our heart, but we know it's for a season. But
Yeah.
it's like I know there's been seasons in my life where I've had to basically in my mind I was thinking I just have to endure this till the end. Like and until this season is
Yes.
finished, I've got to just hang in there and just give it all I've got and grit my teeth and just be as strong as I can and get through it. Sometimes that's a very tricky season because when you're in the middle of it, it's very difficult if you're not coming from a sense of overflow, but you are obligated to go through that season. How do we have a choice? Is there something that we can do in that space?
Oh, I think we can be here for the whole rest of this year talking about this topic. And I absolutely hear what you're saying. And I think my answer to that would be encouraged, because no matter what season we're in, even if we're like okay, my example from being back there in my medical years and being a
Right.
GP and feeling like I needed to endure and just hang in and grit my teeth, and
Hmm.
um there are still small things in each day that I can do that I didn't know about then, because I was so
Yeah.
like, I didn't realize then, that help to position my heart
Right.
to be more true to who I am. So at least have an idea of what my values are. And I mean, we've spoken about values a lot over the last, and what does bring me joy. And
Mm.
so I could at least in that season have had honest conversations with my friends and not been a chameleon and chopped
Yeah.
and changed because of whoever was showing up. So I could still then, I mean, and it would have taken huge courage back then to say and admit, I'm not enjoying this season. You
Mm.
know, rather than plastering this, like I was really, it was performance, act one, scene three, Kathryn enter stage, smile on face, and be just this happy, like
Yeah.
enjoying, and everybody thinks you just. And so I think sometimes, yes, I hear what you're saying. If you need to endure, it's sometimes the most helpful thing to do is to put a smile on your face, but then to
Mm.
find a reason in your day and in that space and time to genuinely have something to smile about and to
Yeah.
genuinely ask, I think my focus was so all drawn to the fact that I wasn't enjoying my life.
Mm.
Whereas there were so many other things in my world that I could have just shifted my focus to and focused on and
Mm.
enjoyed other parts of my life that were still
Yeah.
um, truthfully speaking to my heart as a thing to enjoy.
Mm.
Because I mean, we speak about whatever you focus on grows.
Hmm.
And so I think if you need to endure a season of showing up to, let's just say, a job each day that you really don't enjoy,
Mm.
it's what is it? Is there anything about the day that you do enjoy? Are there
Mm.
any people in that space that you enjoy? Are there any other friends that you can talk to on your way to work on your phone? I
Mm.
mean, on the phone as you're driving to work? Is there, like, I think when we look for the things that feel like they aren't obligations, they're
Mm.
things that
And
are
there's
choices
choice.
that
Yeah.
bring delight. There will
Yeah.
always be things that you can choose to focus on that bring joy and delight, even in the
Mm.
midst of a season that feels heavy with obligation.
Mm.
Um, if that helps. Sorry, that was a long answer to.
That's probably a long question that I had to. No, it's
Uh,
good. And look, this is interesting for me because um, living from a place of overflow, obviously, you imagine that and it's there's so much more peace there, there's so much more joy there. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it is a place where we can be our authentic self. Um, and it's when we think about showing up and performing and being obligated, I know that that's a surefire, it's going to lead us towards burnout and exhaustion and
mm.
all of those things. And so I definitely know that we want to be a people that live from overflow. And I love that you've touched on the fact that we do have choice every day. And we speak, but last year we spent so much time talking around that. We've always got choice. We've always got
Yeah,
choice. And we've always got a choice about what we focus on. We've got choice with our language. We've got choice, like even saying that oh, I have to be here. You already feel obligated, and the language that you use impacts the state that we are and the feelings that we have. And I just feel like this is the beginning of many more conversations in this space, Kath,
yeah.
um, to
Exactly.
equip
So
us.
yeah, so I feel if you're listening and if any of what we've spoken today resonates,
Hmm,
or if you're listening today and you're thinking, I'm not actually quite sure what they're talking
what they're
about,
even talking
but
about.
I've got a feeling that maybe potentially this could be helpful. Hang in with us over this
Hmm,
year, coming year, because I
hmm,
think this is going to be kind of a topic that weaves through many of our conversations in this year to come. And I mean, and as I'm sharing with you now, I'm just reflecting back on difficult seasons that I've traveled since coming to a place where I do live way more from overflow, and just
hmm.
thinking of gosh, it's been so helpful to journey through those difficult seasons when you are in
Yeah,
overflow, or at least have access to being
yeah.
able to live from overflow, even through those difficult seasons. It just
Hmm,
feels so vastly different. And ask me, I
hmm.
know, like, I performed so many years that I absolutely know and can tell. And it's like a check-in with my body almost. Kath,
Hmm,
which one are you living? And someone said it as simply as this the other day. They said you can choose two states. You can live from fear or you can live from love. And
hmm.
living by performance and people pleasing, it's all that fear based,
Yeah.
meeting other people's expectations. What are they going to think of me? Fearing if they're going to like me,
Hmm.
fearing, am I going to be successful? It's like, so I can choose fear or I
Yeah.
can choose love.
Yeah.
And so that's the conversation, is how do we live from a place of love, even through difficult seasons and hard
Mm,
times, and even through perhaps seasons of obligation.
yeah.
But it's from a place of love rather than from a place of fear. And that's the conversation to have. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'm looking forward to having more of these conversations with you. So thank you for sharing the beginnings of this, and look forward to talking again next time with you, Kath.
Thanks, Al. Cheers.